Good afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are, guys. I'm in Russia at the moment. First of all, apologies that we had to reschedule. Last week I had a real severe cold, so I really couldn't do a talk back then. But thanks for your flexibility to reschedule, and great that you're all here. Let me see how I'm going to move on. Here. Okay, so I was already introduced a minute ago, so that is great. Thank you for that, Pierre. Just a little bit more of introduction. A lot of you guys already know me probably, but still, just to give you an idea. So I have quite some experience at the moment in IT, and most of the time in my career I've been working with software measurement and metrics. And I live in the Netherlands, in the north of the Netherlands, a small village called Veendam, and I have a couple of hobbies: chess, soccer, and software metrics. For Metri, that's actually the company I work for. I'm a principal consultant and practice lead for one of our practices. I will show you a real bit about that later. And NESMA, I'm already involved since 2005, I think, and maybe since 2011 in the board. And I'm there involved or in charge of the international cooperation and partnerships. And for ISBSG, I've also been involved since 2005. I've been a president for quite some time, and I'm still very much involved in that organization. And there are a couple of other things here that are not too relevant for this talk. What is relevant is my contact details at the right. So please, if you're interested to link or to get connected on LinkedIn, for instance, please add me or link to me, and I'm always happy to meet new people online. So that would be great. Just to give you an idea about Metri, Metri is not very well known because it's a Dutch company, fairly small, 35 people. But now, since 2 months ago, we are acquired by the big IDC, the International Data Corporation, which has a very big footprint worldwide, research, it's a big company. So we hope that we can also scale up our services a little bit more internationally. If you look at here, the green part, this is my part, so I'm responsible for those services. They're mostly related to quality measurement, but also agile team performance measurement and cost estimation, which is very important in this practice. And you can see that our ISBSG data is not only used in my IT intelligence. We use ISBSG data in several other part of the organization as well. For instance, benchmarking, of course, but also contracting. We have a sourcing practice where we do help customers select the right suppliers, and we use KPIs based on function points in the contracts, and of course also use ISBSG data to come up with the right benchmarks. But most of the time in IT intelligence, we use the data, for instance, in the agile team force measurement, where we have nowadays a lot of data of agile teams in the ISBSG database, so we can really do a lot of analysis there. And I will present a very short case later in this presentation about how you can use the data to do a cost estimate in this case. Okay, well, I think ISBSG has been introduced by Pierre, so I think we can kind of go over this really fast. Good of you to know that NESMA is a gold partner since the beginning, and we are very happy. And NESMA, of course, also not-for-profit organization, a worldwide organization that has its own standard for functional sizing, the NESMA standard, which is very similar to IFPUG, produces similar results. And nowadays, NESMA is more focused on software cost estimation. So together with ICEA, we try to get the software cost estimation body of knowledge finished this year, and then we can start certifying people also in software cost estimation, which is and now it is still in the industry. It is still very strange that there are no software cost estimators. It's not a professional role yet. It's not treated professionally in many organizations. We try to change that. So ISBSG mission, so to improve the management of IT resources by both business and government, through provision and exploitation of public repositories of software engineering knowledge. And it's important to understand that we have an anonymized process. So if you submit your data, it's going to be anonymized. It's never going to be able to get traced back to you. And we verify it, of course, and normalize if necessary. And data, well, like Edwards Deming already said, okay, it's very important to have data to back up your story. Otherwise, you're just another guy with no opinion. And what you can use it for, so because the size part is standardized, we have several functional size measurement standards in the world, ISO certified standards. Because that is standardized, you can use the data to compare between organizations, between industries, between teams. And it's very, very important. So we have most of the data is based on IFPUG, NESMA, or COSMIC standards. And you can do all kinds of stuff with it, like estimation, planning, performance measurement, like Pierre just also showed. And it's data. The data is more than you would expect. It's like we have over 10,000 projects, which is just an Excel file that you get, 10,000 rows. But there are also like 250 columns. It's like incredible the number of data fields that are there that you can use. Of course, they're not all filled in always, but a lot of the data can be used to see if you can do some analysis and to make informed decisions based on data instead of opinions. If we take a look at a bit of data here, so like I said, so you have this Excel file and you see here the data, just to go through it from left to right. So you have the ISBSG project ID, which is assigned by the repository manager. Then we have data quality rating, which is every project is assessed based on a number of criteria that needs to be filled in to get an A or a B or a C or a D. So we have A, B, C, or D, while A and B are quite good data, and C and D could still be good, but could not be verified, or a lot of data fields are missing. We have a function point rating. So how much confidence do we have that the function point analysis is right? Because of course, if that number is wrong, then your whole productivity rate, for instance, will be wrong. And then we have a lot of data of columns like year of project, industry sector, all these type of characteristics of the project, of the organization that is very relevant, especially if you want to select. You can see here I applied the filter here, so I filtered on a couple of columns. And of course, you can do that if you have the data. You can just make your own filters, etc. You see here also all the way on the at the right, there's like the count approach, NESMA, COSMIC, IFPUG 4. We also have IFPUG data. There's also some line of code data, and even some other size measurement measures that I don't even know of, but it's all there. So functional size, very important. So and next to the functional size, we also provide a size category. So based on the size, ISBSG repository manager decides if it's well, in this case, M2, medium 2, small, XX small. And this helps also, of course, if you want to do your analysis, you can make, for instance, average productivity rates per size category or stuff like that. So we have on the right, you see the effort. So we capture the effort, obviously, that is done in a project in a certain time period. And sometimes the effort needs to be normalized. For instance, we only get design, build, and test effort. But if you see here the column normalized work level, work effort level 1, we normalize it to span the whole project life cycle. So there's also plan, specify, and implementation there, the phases. And we do that based on the percentages, of course, that we have in the database. It's important to understand that level 1 is only the development team, and we have several other levels as well, but level 1 is the one that's most used. And then you can calculate metrics. You can calculate the project delivery rate. the PDR, you see in the bottom table. It's a very important metric. People call it productivity, which is, yeah, it's basically not correct. It's the inverse of productivity, because productivity is usually it's output divided by input, and here it's just the other way around, and that has just to do with the way the human brain works. So if we come here with 11.8, we understand what it is. If we come with 0.00034, it's much more complex to understand what it means and to calculate it. You can see here also there's defect density, which is the number of defects found per 1,000 function points, the speed of delivery, the number of function points per month, and then the manpower delivery rate, which is divided by the number of people working on it. So there are all kinds of metrics, and of course you can calculate also your own metrics. I will show an example of that later. So we have schedule and effort recorded, and here you can see also the 6 phases that we have: plan, specify, design, build, test, and implement. You can also see sometimes there are some cells that are empty, so we don't have that information, and we need to normalize it to the full life cycle. And because we know the project activity scope, we understand that which phases are included in the effort and which are not. So we can work with that. You see here my 4 favorite metrics that are almost always used, and I will show in a case later on also how to do this: project delivery rate, the cost efficiency, the delivery speed, and defect density. And you see also how important the function point is, because all these metrics are based on function points. If we don't have function points, or function points are not accurately measured, yeah, your analysis will be not as accurate as possible. Okay, so I showed you a bit about the data. So let's take a brief look at what we have in the current version of the repository. Just a couple of demographics, just to give you an idea. So the main contribution part is still from the United States, but Netherlands and Spain are really creeping up here. Yeah, so the last couple of years, a lot of projects from Netherlands and Spain were added, but still there's still a very nice mix of the countries. This is, by the way, this is not information that we usually also share in the data. We have it, but we don't put it in the repository that you can buy. Because it's a bit of political issue there, so we don't do that. So we have some industry sector data here. You see most of it is from communication sector, but there's also a lot of finance, banking and insurance, also a lot of government. It's always interesting, and a couple of years ago we did a special analysis report on the productivity in government versus the commercial market, and also for in-house development and for outsourcing. And the results were quite shocking in the sense that maybe we all expected that the government is really quite bad in producing software, at least when it comes to productivity and cost efficiency rates. If we look at the primary programming language, so this is also one of the fields that is used a lot for filtering, and there are many languages out there, but I wanted to show the most important ones here. Obviously, Java is a very important one. We have over 2,000, which is more than 20% of the data points is in Java, but .NET, Oracle, COBOL, and so on. ABAP is the language that's connected with SAP. So if you have SAP implementation and you have some custom-made code, it's usually the ABAP. You can see there are quite a lot of projects there, and yeah, sometimes it's complicated because then we don't have it, but then we also have a field which shows if a language is 3GL, 4GL, 5GL, which is some kind of typological languages as the one you're looking for. Yeah, just here to show a little bit of Java PDR, hours per function point, per size category in this case. You see, for instance, that the XS, the XS is really, yeah, let's say not so productive. You need over 30 hours per function point to do that, which is maybe a bit logical as you think that there is a lot of overhead usually also involved. And productivity gets better all the time. You know, you see here P25 is the 25th percentile, median is not the average, but let's say the P50 percentile, and P75 is P75 percentile. And you see the large ones, actually there's not too much spread there. So if you have a large project, you can have quite some accurate estimation, for instance, if you want to use this for estimation. So this is just to show you a bit about the demographics, the data that we have here. You see also the productivity through time, which can be sometimes interesting just to see what's going on. We all think that development languages get more productive all the time, and this is true. You could say this is true, but still, I think the Java median is still somewhere around the same value as we had in 2000 to 2005. So there's not too much happening there. Okay, so I wanted to show a bit about the data, but also to show you in a practical way the way I use it, and I use it a lot, like I said in the beginning. So this is one case I did a couple of months ago. There's a pension firm in the Netherlands, and we have a huge new pension law that is going to be happening from 2024 or something. And all the pension firms are in a state of panic because they really have to modernize, they really have to make new software because it's a completely different design of the law. So these guys, they made a data model themselves. Then we could use the indicative NESMA approach. So like I said in the beginning, NESMA has a standard, an ISO standard. And this part of the standard is that we can use very early on in the project lifecycle, when we have only a data model, we can fairly accurately already estimate the number of function points. So, and this is basically because if you have the number of logical files, let's say logical files, you know that for each logical file, you probably have some function that adds it, to modify it, to delete it, and to print it, and a couple of standard functionalities are usually there. So you can already understand the number of logical files times a certain factor, comes very close to the size that you would measure if you could do it more detailed later in the project. In this case, we came over these figures: 4,000, 5,000, and 8,000 function points. So I always recommend to do something like this, right? So you have a minimum, the likely, and a maximum value, so that you can also understand the uncertainty. Let's say if we had 1,000, 5,000, and 12,000, that would mean that we have much more uncertainty. So in this case, there's uncertainty, but because we have a lot of data also measured with the indicative NESMA approach, we have a lot of experience. We understand the risk distributions there. So this is good. So if we have this size, okay, then we need to figure out, okay, how are we going to transform that size into an estimate? Well, in this case, we are looking for a project delivery rate and some other metrics, and we have to make the right selection in the ISBSG dataset to come up with the productivity rates. Well, we know a couple of things about this project. We got that from the customer, obviously. So it's a new development. We couldn't use anything from the current system. It's going to be Java. They're going to do it themselves, so we don't have to figure in offshore rates in India or anything. All activities need to be done. It's just a greenfield development of a complete new system. So what we did, we went into the database or the repository. We made the selections that are here. So data quality rating A or B, project year after 2013. Well, it's a Java project. I just used the size category L or XL, which is 1,000, 9,000 function points. And this is quite important because we use the NESMA standard. we can use the NESMA data, but also the IFPC4+ data, because it produces similar results. If you do a detailed analysis of any system, if you do a NESMA detailed analysis or IFPC4+ detailed analysis, the number will be roughly the same of the size. So that means that we can use more data to do the analysis. Well, here you see, so like I said, so the database you get in Excel, right? So this is a repository. So this is my second tab. Second tab is nothing there, it's just Excel file. But I made this second tab where you see A, B, C, and D are colors. Okay, you don't have to make them colors, but I made them just to show you here. And you see here that I made this little table where I tried to do the analysis of my 4 favorite metrics: the PDR, the cost efficiency, delivery speed, and defect density. And you see also the formulas here. So I show the formulas, which are very simple formulas, but it just gives me, in the end, the distribution of the data that I copy paste in these 4 columns. So if I want to do the PDR, do the analysis, so I just made the selection just like I just showed you in the previous slide in the database, and I get, let's say I get 90 projects, just to say a number. So what I do, I just copy all those values and I just paste them here in column A as how do you call it? As values. So you paste them as values. And this means that this column G is going to calculate all the N. Okay, let's say that's 90, then the minimum value, then the percentile 10%, which means 10% of the values is below that number. And usually for me, the market average or the likely scenario is the median. It's not the average, because this type of data is usually very much skewed to the right, because your productivity can't be better than 0 hours per function point, but it can be much worse than 20 or 30 or 40 hours per function point. Of course, you can do your outlier analysis first. But then there's a little bit of an issue, because you have a cost per function point, which is not provided by ISBSG. So we do provide the total project cost, which you can see here. And then you can just make a calculation. Sometimes, of course, you have to understand that the total project cost and what's in there, because that is maybe not normalized figure. So you have to figure out if it's the right cost. Of course, you have to take into account the currencies. But if you understand what is the total project cost of the full life cycle, and then you divide it by the function points, you can have the cost per function point here as well. And here you can see also in the distributions that their data is actually quite skewed to the right, because the max is much higher than the P90 in all the cases. But as I said, if you use P30 median and P70, that's not really much of a problem. So that's the one that we have used in this example. So we did not do an outlier analysis. We just used those values, the P30, the median, and the P70. And on the right, you can see very easily the number of hours that we need, the cost, the likely cost of the project. Duration is a bit strange, because of course for duration you have the total number of hours which you have to divide. Also, if you look at the speed, which is a bit difficult, because here you see that the low scenario actually is higher than the likely scenario. This just has to do with the division, and also an indication of the number of defects that you can expect, which is sometimes useful. So of course, it's a very high level estimate. It's based on only the data model, size with the indicative NESMA, which usually gives quite good results, but you always have to keep in mind that you're very early in the project life cycle, and the uncertainty is at that point still quite high, and you have to refine your estimate during the next phases when you have more detailed information, more detailed design. However, for this pension firm, they needed to go to the board of directors to ask for a budget. And for them, it's very useful, because this gives them a range in which they feel confident that the project cost will fall in the end. And one other very important thing is that if you have your productivity here, especially if you're working in agile, You get a lot of data during the project. So every 2-3 weeks you have a sprint or several sprints of several teams. You can see how the teams have done against your estimate. And you can see that if we use 6.5 hours per function point as a reference value, as what we think is likely, then yeah, if the first 5-6 sprints show that they're actually in 7.2 or even lower productivity, yeah, you can already control, make steering actions, or at least try to figure out what's going on in the project, why the productivity is not high enough. And that's really strong in agile, because in the old days in the waterfall projects, the 90% syndrome, we still know the green traffic lights until one day before delivery, and then suddenly became red. So nowadays we have much more data, much more ways to control it. How can you get the data? Well, it's very easy. You can actually just get it from the site. At least you have to pay for it, because in the end it's not for free. But one thing that you can do is, for instance, to become a member of NESMA. And NESMA is a gold partner, and we have, if you buy the data through NESMA, you can get a large discount. And also NESMA has the option that you can also get access to all the ISBSG analysis reports, like the one I mentioned before regarding government outsourcing and in-house development. And I just provided here a link for you guys to see, but you can also just go to ISBSG, to the subscription options, figure out what is the cost, what you will get. I've showed you basically the DNE, the Development and Enhancement repository, but like Pierre also said, we have the maintenance and support as well, which is quite useful for maintenance data. Data submission. Pierre already mentioned in the beginning that you can get a free benchmark report. And it's quite valuable, especially if you did a good project. You want to show it to your boss and say, hey, I did good, because I have here is an ISBSG report. It shows that I'm best in class with my project. So, and if you submit more projects, then you can also get more benefits. You can see here some of the benefits that you can get. There are multiple ways of submitting project data. So we have Excel files that you can quickly send in a lot of data for a lot of projects. And you can also basically do an export from your system if you have data. Do an export and send it to us. We send it to the repository manager, and he will figure out how to map it to our data collection form and do all the work for you. So if you have any data, and of course preferably sized in one of the ISO standards, then we will be very happy to get it, and we will be very happy to reward you with some nice valuable stuff that's here. Then one more thing, we have this page, it's called resources, and you see on the bottom right, you see ISBSG short papers, and this is actually an initiative that we started this year. Where every month I am analyzing something like, okay, what is the productivity of Java projects, or what is the impact of agile software development, or all kinds of topics. And every month I produce a short paper which you can download for free. Yeah, it's not the full analysis, of course, it's just a high level analysis, but it does give some nice insight on the data that's in there, the trends that are in there, and yeah, I would like to invite you all just to go to this site and to download a couple of those papers. And please provide us also with some feedback if you like it, if you don't like it, just let us know. And maybe if you have some topics for next research or next papers, then please share. So I think I'm in the end of the presentation. Apologies again for first of all being 1 week late, and then for this connection. I hope you all, you are all still here. You didn't go away, and that you thought it was interesting presentation. Yeah, like I said, please link if you're interested, and thank you all. And well, if there are any questions, I think, not sure if we have some time, but Pierre probably will tell me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Harold, for a very interesting presentation, and it's very exciting to see information about the new release that we have, and I really hope that a lot of people will take the chance to dig deeper in the data that we have. And as Harold said, and I also said in the beginning, you can always start with sending in a project and make a comparison with that one, and then see what we can give you back, and please do that. And if you have any questions, please, you can open your microphone and make a question if you have, or just use the chat. Meanwhile, I will, if you stop sharing, Harold, I will put up one. So.
Yeah, I think I'm not sharing at the moment.
Yes, you are not sharing, so I will.
Harold, it's Paula here.
Yes.
I've got a question for you. What's the one thing that you would say is the gold, like the thing that you think, for when you're looking at the ISBSG data, that is the one thing that really stands out to you, is this is gold for you in your business as a consultant?
For me, the most important thing is that I have data and that I can compare things. So the fact that this data is based on standards, on ISO standards, very important. So you can, for instance, imagine all the people here in the call. I'm sure you all have experience with agile teams. They usually use story points, but they are not standardized. So one team says something is 5 story points, another team says it's 12, or right. So you can't use data to compare even inside a team usually, but especially not between teams, and not between organizations or countries even. So the fact that this data is standardized in an ISO standard and you can just use it, it's a square meter of software. It's yeah, it's huge. It's the most important thing.
Okay, thanks.
I could just add that from the European Union, they are saying that to all their members that they should use function points as a denominator to make it comparable with and use that for estimation and price comparison of buying software measurement or software development services. They are
and to explain a little bit, so a couple of those European agencies, they tender, of course, their software services to the market. And we in Metri, we also help suppliers bid for those type of contracts. And those are multi-million, sometimes billion euro contracts based on price per function point. So they fully understand that that this is the way that you can understand full transparency in your software development, because otherwise you will just be spending, you will just be throwing money at agile teams and just hoping and praying that they will deliver whatever they need to deliver in time. So.
And it's used nowadays. It's used in several countries all over the world. Brazil is one country where all government and also all the banks and oil industry that are using function points and when they are buying software development services. Meanwhile, I'm showing you a slide that will show you what the upcoming webinars will have focus on. Talking about agile, so August 31, the last day in August, Alfonso Gonzalez from Leda Management Consulting in Spain. He will talk about how to improve the management of your agile developments. through a product approach. And in September 22, then we will have our friends in Japan Function Point User Group, and they are responsible for presentation that is about benchmarking software development based on function point analysis that are in Japan. And if you are belonging to any one of the members, as I showed you in the beginning, the gold members, please check your benefits that you have, because you can buy data with a discount and reports with this discount, or if you're, like Harold said, if you're an ESMA member, you can get them for free, the reports, etc. So there are a lot of benefits that you have if you're a member of one of the gold members.
So if I can add just to this list, then November 9 and 10 there will be a software cost estimation conference in the Netherlands in Haarlem, which is going to be partly part physical and part online. We hope that everyone will be able to travel, and I know Paula, you probably won't be able, but a lot of other guys, especially from Europe, are able to travel by then. So it's November 9 and 10 in Haarlem in the Netherlands, quite close to the airport, and it's going to be an event that's going to be on the topic of software cost estimation.
And one even more important event is one event that is divided into 2 days. It's the ISBSG IT Confidence Conference that we have each year. Last year was the first time we did it online, and we split it in two different days because we wanted to approach the US in one day, and Europe and Asia in one day. So it will be October 8th and October 14, and you can see there which date will fit you best, or if you could always be attending both of them, no matter, we don't care, we just appreciate if you do that, but then you perhaps the start time will perhaps be not that convenient for, but one of the days should be convenient for everyone. So check that on our website, it will come up there, October 8th and October 14th.
Yeah, and I do think that we still have a running call for presentation. So anyone who has a nice story, a nice presentation to tell, yeah, it's still, I think it's still possible to send in your abstract.
Yeah, I think it's still, we can still get some more and to choose again. So please send information to us.
There's one more question there from Tom. If you want to have a look in the chat box.
When I'm sharing, I'll take my sharing away, then I can open.
Yeah, so the question is here, how do you handle reuse of existing software components when estimating a software development project? Yeah, so this is always a bit complicated because you have to factor in the reuse. So that means that part of your functionality is going to be reused. So you have to understand which part is going to be reused. So for instance, in the example I showed, let's say 5,000 function points is the likely scenario. 1,000 is reused functionality. So you will need to have a different productivity rate for that, because you don't have to develop it anymore, but you still have to integrate it and you still have to test it. So you have to figure out some way to adjust the productivity rate to take into account.
But I just want to add, all things, it depends on the purpose why you are measuring and using metrics. If you want to see that you could deliver things faster and cheaper, then it's very good if you can reuse. If you always, when you're developing software, you make things that could be reused, and then you should reuse it, and probably, hopefully, you will be more productive doing that. and it will be more productive even in the maintenance of the application if you build up your systems like that, and if you keep control of all the different parts you have in your system.
Okay, Pierre,
Yes.
I also have to leave. It is 3 here, 4
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
I think we don't have any other questions, so
No, I will thank all of the attendees for joining our webinar, and you are the most important for us. And if you want to get in contact with us, look at the website. You can find information about the email address and get in contact with us. And please remember to sign up for the upcoming webinars. Until then, see you later, and bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.